Son of the trickster god Anansi comes face to face with the god of war Ogoun. He has to figure out how to get himself out of this sticky web of a situation.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Lloyd.
And I'm Natasha with Midnight Comics, and welcome to another episode of
What We're Reading. Today we're reading Is'nana by Greg Anderson-Elysee.
Specifically, Is'nana and the Drums of Ogun.
Yes.
Which there's a reason why we're doing this one specifically that will come later in the story portion. Yeah, in the story portion of the video. Before we get to that, make sure you subscribe to this channel for weekly indie comic book recommendations. Make sure you like the video so that it gets out there, and share it with a friend who might be interested in the story we're about to talk about. Also, make sure you come follow us on Patreon, but more about that later.
Yeah, I'm going to start out first with the cover. So, the cover, it looks really good.
I like the cover.
Yes.
A lot.
Always, the color composition of that, I say always, but the color composition of that in regards to this cover,
well, to
I think
be
is
fair, you can say always, because the artist on this project is Sean Hill.
Right.
So
facts.
always with the fire on the art. Okay, and I do believe we have the Sean Hill cover, because there were multiple different covers, but we have the Sean Hill cover, and of course he did all of the art. So
yeah, which phenomenal. So I guess without further ado, because it looks like the first half of the book anyway, the art is the same style.
The art throughout most of the interior of the book is Sean Hill. Right.
So with that being said, let's talk about the interior art. So the interior art, fantastic, right? Everything that we said in regards to the cover definitely applies here. And what I would like to kind of add to that, of course, it looks great, color is great, and stuff like that. But you can see, I know there was a complaint, not necessarily a complaint, but a critique in a previous video about a particular art style where it seemed dark, it was kind of hard to follow at points. This, you don't run into that.
Or is it the colors?
Maybe a bit of both, right? But it all plays into our interior art section, right?
You're right.
But in this, everything is displayed in such a way where you understand every bit of what's happening, even down to the detail of like the tiny spiders that were kind of coming out of him and, you know, crawling up on the arms of these different entities and stuff like that. You didn't really lose a sense of what's going on, right? Dragon Ball style, where they just blobs here, blobs there fighting. There was definitely plenty of detail tied into.
Shots fired.
Slick shots fired. Sorry, Dragon Ball, but it is what it is. Yeah, you know, facts. But yeah, so with that being said, I think he did a fantastic job of adding those details in there, making sure that it's very well laid out in regards to panels and stuff like that. They just did a fantastic job with the artwork.
Sean.
Facts.
Hell. He do this.
Right.
But yeah, but of course, because of that, of course, it was so very detailed and well drawn. The movement and action scenes were drawn so well. The colors really stuck out in the parts where they were supposed to stick out. Like I loved how the color palette changed for certain things.
Yeah.
It was just really cool, honestly.
Yeah. For me, the only part that was a tad bit jarring was that kind of change halfway through. Now, I don't know if that was a separate story that took place in.
I feel like that's supposed to be like an epilogue. So at the end there is like an epilogue section. You can kind of tell that it is because there's like 2 pages where it's separated by blank pages with spider things on it. And the art style gets a little more cute is the word I'm going to use.
It reminds me of like Steven Universe, honestly. That's what the first thing that kind of came to mind.
Yeah. And I like the art, and I think it's intentional.
Yeah.
It did throw me off at first.
Yeah, because it was definitely completely lighthearted in comparison to the action and kind of the grittiness. It got to this very lighthearted, cartoony style.
But I feel like it was intentional after reading it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, okay, this is actually really cute, and I actually really like the art style. It just threw me off when it changed at first.
Yeah.
But I like the intention behind it because of the difference in tone.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, the tone shifted here. It's more of an epilogue than part of the main story. And so let's put some different art. And I actually really like that idea. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. So with that being said, let's go ahead and move over to the story.
And so, back like we said in the intro, the story, and I think why we're saying we're doing this one separately is because the story really works well as a standalone story. Of course, we know there's Is'nana volumes 1 to there's this, the Drums of Ogun, there's Happy Birthday.
The Happy Birthday.
Happy Birthday or Happy Birthday, something like that. Yeah, and I think each story does a good job of telling a complete story on its own. So you do not need to read anything before this to jump into this book. It's a standalone story. You can have no backstory and it all flows really well to feel like the character is still a fleshed out character.
Right.
On to the actual story itself. It is of course about Is'nana, the spider, the one of the children of Anansi the Spider, which if most of you know African folklore and about Anansi, Anansi is the trickster god spider, but also the keeper of stories. Yeah,
and I love the kind of the culture that's coming into this. Is and you can tell either they are in that, right, grew up around that or what have you, or they got some sort of advisor or consultant, because they are really kind of spot on. And there's even a little bit of a I don't know, blurb in the back of the book, but some information, at least in the digital version of the book, that kind of tells you where they're pulling these things from and what the inspirations and whatnot, you know, for the characters, again, for the culture and all the lore that accompanies it. So I do like that kind of historical and kind of real world relevance that's being brought into this. So.
I absolutely love it. I think it makes more of a little connection with me because of some of the stuff that I'm doing.
Yeah, even when they brought up Loa, bro, I was just like, oh man, Addis, this is the stuff that I need to kind of dive into with some bar characters. So it's pretty neat to see other people diving into that and actually doing the research and learning about these things, but not just blindly saying this thing is cool, I want to do it, but actually taking the time to either sit down with somebody who is deeply rooted in this culture and lore, or being a part of it themselves and bringing that kind of real or intimate kind of experience into their writing. So
that's why I love it. I have family I can talk to about this kind of stuff.
Right.
It helps my writing. But yes, absolutely love that. And of course, being called the Drums of Ogun, you expect Ogun to be a bit involved in the story. And of course he is. Yeah. He calls Is'nana essentially to his domain. And there is a bit of a skirmish argument, and it's not made entirely clear what he wants with him, but it is made entirely clear by Is'nana that he wants nothing to do with it because he doesn't want to fight. Right,
but unfortunately there is a threat coming that's going to force him to fight, and all they're trying to do really is to make sure that he's ready for the coming battles. So yeah, very excited about that, very excited to where that piece of the story left off. Definitely recommend checking out more of that. I think we kind of touched on pacing already in that kind of explanation. It flows really good, even in the section where the artwork changes. It's still almost a direct continuation of what happened in that previous issue. Excuse me, I said it. Right, it most definitely is. Again, for me, it kind of took the immersion a little bit out, but it wasn't nothing that was going to destroy the story because I was definitely locked in regardless throughout the whole thing. And really quick thing, interesting that Tucson pops up in there, which, you know, from a previous... Well, I mean...
if anything, I was going to be like some interesting characters.
Some interesting and familiar characters show up in there.
Poskin, but yeah, whatever.
All right.
I like how the story starts off with this nice narration, and then... But we're seeing what's happening.
Right.
And it's almost as though, as well, the narration, again, if you haven't read the previous volumes...
You get a feel for the character.
Getting you there. Piece by piece without throwing the entire backstory in your face. It just feels like part of the story.
Right.
And then it flows into everything that happens with Ogun and what happens after that. And even that flows well into the little epilogue.
Yeah.
Despite the change.
Yeah. And it's great because there's always one of the things that I like, one of the things that we kind of talked about when we're talking about like Marvel and stuff like that with the movies or any kind of media is like what I would recommend or what I wish would happen more is that just throw us in there, stuff is happening, and let us get to know the characters. And then if there's something in their past and comes up, okay, bring it in, because that's kind of how some old comic books did in the first place anyway. Even how he did it in this book, it's just like, yeah, there's definitely some more history to the character, but we get where is he mentally right now and what is ahead of him that he needs to overcome. But then later in the story, I'm sure, he'll have to dig deep. There's something in his past that'll help him move forward. Obviously, there's a relationship with his father. Obviously, he's got his siblings and stuff with him. We'll see these things. But
it's a good job of still making it stand alone.
Fantastic job. Writing, pacing, whole lot.
So make sure you check out Is'nana the Spider by Greg Anderson-Elysee. And of course, also make sure you check us out here at Midnight Comics. You can find all of our books, posters, and everything else at www.midnightcomics.org.
Yep. And with that being said, don't forget to check out all of our other things like Patreon. We have a whole host of other shows on there, like our What If Wednesdays, our Community Character Creation Night, and you get behind-the-scenes looks at all of our projects that we have getting worked on in the background. And also, you'll have the opportunity to check out Indie Breakdown, or rather early looks of the Indie Breakdown, with Season 2 airing right now. So definitely check that out and get prepared for the Indie Versus phase coming real soon. And with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in, and remember, until next time, Midnight is coming. Jesus Christ.
Summer night, it's summer night. She let me so late, should've spent the night. No need to hit follies, I'm working her body out since she in love with the fitness type.